Hey, this is Mikko, and in this video we're gonna learn how to use analogous color schemes. I'm gonna share my own palette for this exercise that we are gonna do at the end of this video, and also I'm gonna give few tricks on what to avoid when using these color schemes and how you can mix colors faster. So the way you make an analogous color scheme is by picking one color and then two colors on both sides of it. So for this cyan color, it's this blue color and green color. And I'm gonna blur the color wheel, and you can see that we can use the same wheel to make an analogous color scheme on any part of this color wheel. So you can make a yellow analogous color scheme by just rotating this pie around. And depending on how wide your pie is, it should have only 3 colors maximum. But depending on like how wide you make this pie in this blur mode, that defines how difficult this exercise is gonna be for you. The narrower it is, the more hard this is going to be for you. So let's go with this cyan color, and let's look at the watches here on the left. And this is just the hue range that I'm gonna be using with this painting. So I'm going to be using green and blue and the colors in between those two colors. And nothing outside of those colors is going to be included in this painting. But I'm also going to use different saturation levels. So in these watches you see that I have full saturation on the left, and then by small increments I go to gray hue. And grayness of the color is also very handy tool to make these colors look different. If you look at just the values, the lightness and blackness of these, you can see that the values are almost the same for all of these swatches if you take away the saturation. So it's also important to understand the lightness and darkness of the color. And for this we're gonna look at this color palette. And here we can see that this green bar is showing you the darkest values of the same color and the lightest value of the same color in full saturation. And this part is the important part that you should definitely, if you only remember one thing for this entire video, it's this, that the new artist, the biggest mistake that they make when starting to use color is that they add white to the color when they want to make a lighter version out of it, or black to the color when they want to make a darker version out of it. Never ever do this, and the reason is light in the real world, it's never white. It's always either cool light or warm light. It's one of those two things. It's never just completely white ever. And if you make colors in your painting on the presumption that the dark parts are gonna be black and the light parts are gonna be closer to white, that's always gonna suck all vibrancy and soul out of your painting, and most of all, you can't create mood this way. So you have to decide in your scene that you are painting very early on, and the earlier that you decide this, the easier it is going to be to use colors now and forever. Is that decide if the light is going to be cool or warm. You have to make this like binary decision. So if a painting is gonna have, for example, cool light, all the colors that are towards the light, that are the lighter versions of themselves, they're gonna have like a slightly cooler hue to those colors. And if the lights are warm, then the hues are gonna be tinted slightly towards the warmer hue of that color, but also lighter version of them. And I'm gonna show you what that means in practice. So I created these two swatches here, and they look very similar to each other. But if we look closely, the one on the left is for a situation where the light is cool. So the lighter version of the same color, it's slightly bluer version of that greenish blue color. And the darker version of that same color that is towards the shadow, it's gonna be a warmer version of that color. So it's not a big difference, it's just slight. It doesn't mean that the warmer version of your blue should be orange. It's just a slightly warmer blue. And in a warmer setting, the same color here on the right side of the image, the lighter version of that is gonna be slightly more greenish, and the darker version is gonna be more blue. And it's just a slight hue, and it depends on the material that you're painting, but these are the basic rules that you should always remember when deciding what is the darker and the lighter version of that color. Never ever just add black or white to the color to make a darker or lighter version of that same color. Are we clear on this? Because if this is the one thing that you learn from this video, you're already like much better painter. And believe me, like this is the one difference that is between just making paintings and like having a strong mood in your picture. If this sounds like it's a lot of work, I made you this free color palette that you can screenshot in this screen right now, and you can make a painting out of this, and this will be a cool blue color scheme that is Analogous Colors, and by using this color palette you will learn to use blue. Simple. And of course you can make different analogous color schemes by using the pi rotational device that I showed you earlier. So when you're using these colors and they're very close to each other in hue or value, it's gonna be hard to sometimes pick the right transition colors. And I never usually like recommend using this tool, but for this painting I'm using this trick a lot, that when I'm painting, like let's say for example with this color, and I have a color next to it that is like very similar in hue, and I don't want to have another swatch for in between these colors, and I'm doing the painting and these two colors are next to each other and I need the transition to be smooth. I'm gonna pick the blending tool and then just like make a single brush stroke in between them, and then I use the color picker from there, and now I have the right color, and I'm gonna erase by going backwards that blending tool stroke, because the blending tool can be handy, but I just don't recommend using it too much, especially when you're learning painting. Just ignore that it's there, but you can use it for mixing color and keep learning about brush strokes, because I think that's more useful for visual impact than blending different colors. When you're blending too much, it can be really hard to notice where those problem areas occur, so I just recommend not touching it unless you have a clear reason to do so, because it's just gonna like create a lot of like smudgy lines all over the place, and this is one problem that you don't want to be dealing with. If you want to do a painting with this blue color scheme, give me a shout out here on YouTube or on Instagram, and we're gonna do a group of these blue paintings, and I think it's gonna be not only a lot of fun, but we're all gonna learn a lot out of it. And it doesn't matter like how long have you painted, you are always gonna have these colors that are, some of them are more difficult than others, and I recommend doing this exercise to just like get more used to using that single color. You have probably seen that I've used a lot of purple analogous color schemes lately. That is because I'm really bad at using purple, and I pushed myself to do it just to learn to get more comfortable with it. So I hope you all have fun, and let me know if you have any questions, and let's paint stuff. Okay, now let's use this color palette that I have created and make a painting using only these colors. But I'm going to be picking in between those swatch colors and making them darker or more saturated. So I'm not sticking directly to those swatch colors. They're just a really good starting point. I think color palettes are very handy for painting very fast, because you don't have to spend too much time finding those right colors that have color harmony between them. In this palette, for example, it's almost impossible to create a painting that doesn't have color harmony in the end. So I don't have to worry about that, and I can just like focus on what I'm painting and what the mood of that painting is. To create this painting as fast as possible, I'm now using only 2 layers. One is for these foreground trees and one is for the background. You see me extracting the sky later to make adjustments to it, but that doesn't mean that it's on its own layer. It's just the same color, so it's easy to color pick and edit later into more defined clouds. And I'm not getting too fussy with these foreground trees, I'm just more worried about the entire mood and composition of the piece. So here I'm adding a bit more color variety to the greens by making this marsh area thing. I'm not sure what it is. It's some kind of wetlands. Does it matter? I'm more interested in what the mood is that I'm going towards. And I'm not really sure myself, and that to me is part of the fun of painting, is just like finding it out. Here you see me like making way too gray brushstrokes in the cliffside, and you see that I'm adjusting them later to make them fit into this analogous color scheme. So all these colors, like even the dark browns, they are just desaturated versions of green. So I'm not using any reds or yellows to create those colors here. When you have a lot of blue in the same image, just adding desaturated versions of some colors creates a really strong color contrast, and that is just because color is so relative that it doesn't really matter what color you are using. It matters almost more that what colors are surrounding that brushstroke than the color itself that you are putting in. So that's why you never should be too hesitant in the beginning of like picking the right colors, because you don't have enough like critical mass to tell what the contrasts between those colors are going to be. So only when you have enough of the painting painted, then you can start making like real decisions. So I think it's important to just be very loose and start very fast, because you have to understand that you don't have enough information at that point yet to make decisions. But it's only around like 2/3 of the painting when you have enough colors down and you know how the different decisions are impacting the whole effect of the painting. I really thought that I would be making more details to these trunks, but I'm thinking like, does it really matter? Like, is it gonna make much of a visual impact? And I decide no. I think there's something to be gained from just having this certain like looseness to it. And personally, I kind of admire those paintings that look like they're easy to paint, because that's what I always want my paintings to look like. I want them to look like they're easy to paint, but trust me, they're not. Like, it's a lot of going back and forth and making like very small tweaks to everything, but I just don't want to kill them by overworking them. So that's always the struggle that I'm working with. And that's how I created this piece using the same color swatch that now you can use too. And if this video has been helpful for you, please let me know in the comments. And if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe and bell buttons, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye!